Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to PTV World. I'm Tayyaba Nasar Khan and you're watching The Debate. And with me, of course, we've been joined by Farrukh Pitafi, who's a senior analyst, and Raja Faisal, who is a geopolitical analyst. Now, we're going to talk about two very significant topics. The first, of course, is Pakistan's role in combating terrorism as well. Of course, we know that the 13-member delegation has just went as well under Mufti Taqi Usmani to Afghanistan to hold talks and peace talks with the TTP as well. And of course, there's a ground that they are stuck in right now. And of course, we also know that Pakistan, since 9/11, has been working towards combating terrorism as well, and we've paid a huge cost for that as well. 80,000 lives have been laid for the combating of terrorism as well, and Pakistan's role has of course been recognized by world over, but we still need to recognize it a lot more. And Pakistan is still trying to combat the role of ISIS-K right now, the growth of ISIS-K right now, and that is one of the reasons why Pakistan is also going for the peace talks with the TTP as well. But of course, we're also going to have the second segment where we're going to talk about the flood situation. Climate change is causing a havoc all over the country, all over the world, of course, but Pakistan is one of the top countries which are being faced by the climatic disaster. And we know right now in Balochistan, 136 casualties have already taken place. And not just that, more than 70 people have been injured and so many displaced, so many damages to property as well. And the Prime Minister himself has also ensured that the relief activities continue ongoing as well. And he has directed for the immediate disbursement of the financial assistance as well. A very, very alarming situation, because climate change is a very alarming situation in itself, which has to, of course, be combated. There has to be legislative processes and the other as well. And the Prime Minister, of course, he's spearheading that as well. But let's go back to our first segment, which, of course, is the combating of terrorism by Pakistan and the continuous struggle towards that as well. We know that the government has sent a delegation of the religious scholars as well to Afghanistan. And of course, this is headed by Mufti Taqi Usmani. We've been joined by our panelists as well. Mr. Tariq Farhadi, who's the Afghan affairs expert, and Mr. Mushtaq Yusufzai, the senior journalist over Skype. Thank you for joining us. Right, Mr. Tariq Farhadi, of course we know that Pakistan, the TTP is a major issue for Pakistan, a major threat to the national security apparatus of Pakistan as well, and it completely destroys the peace in Pakistan when there are so many cross-border activities as well. Now, let's take you back to the first question, the prime question. What is the issue? Why does the Taliban, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, want the merger of Fatah to be reversed?
Well, that is, they have extremist demands, in fact. They want the merger of Fatah to be reversed, and they want to come back with their Kalashnikovs to Pakistan. So if I was negotiating with them from the Pakistan side, I would say, why don't you come back with some books, with some pins, with some prayer rugs, with some fruits from Afghanistan? Why do you need your Kalashnikovs?
Right, of course. Okay, let's go to Mr. Mushtaq Yusufzai as well. The ISIS-K has a growing potential in Afghanistan right now, and Khorasan, of course, is creating havoc as well. And Afghan Taliban itself and the world over is also scared about the growth, the projection of the growth that is shown by the ISIS-K as well. So my question to you is this talk with the TTP that Pakistan is holding currently, is it going to lead towards the reduction of their power in Afghanistan as well? Could there be a help in the combat of that?
Actually, Pakistan is worried about its own security, and you might have seen in the past couple of months when the Taliban took over Afghanistan, we have seen a spike in terrorist attacks in the tribal areas, particularly in Bajau and South Waziristan and North Waziristan. And then the Taliban started attacking the police, the law enforcement agencies in central areas like Peshawar, Kohat, Mardan, Nowshera. So it's a very critical situation for Pakistan now, because as we mentioned, the Islamic State is growing its influence and started recruitment in Pakistani tribal areas. And in one of the tribal districts of Pakistan, the Islamic State is quite stronger. And you might have heard about these frequent target killing in North Waziristan. So there's some of the reason that Pakistan wanted to engage them, the TTP. And then the Afghan Taliban advised Pakistani authorities to negotiate these people. But now, as you know, the talks are in progress, but there are some demands which seem to be very difficult. And the Taliban wanted to come with the arms and that is debatable. The tribal elders just returned today, and they were quite hopeful that they can compromise on some of their demand, but they wanted Pakistan to restore the previous status, apartheid, which is very difficult. And the
Yusuf
tribal
Zai Sahab,
elders have.
while you continue to answer, could you also move your mic closer to your face because the audio seems to be declining?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better. Continue, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm saying that these are some of the reasons that Pakistan sending tribal jirgas, and then recently send the ulama, the religious scholar, because some of these ulamas, religious scholars, were quite close to these Taliban, and among them was Maulana Muhammad Tayyib. He is the central Amir of Ishat al-Tawheed wa Sunnah, Panjfir and Sawabi, and he had great influence on these Taliban operating in Malakand, Bajaur, Mohmand tribal region, and he held very fruitful talks with these Taliban. And that's the
Mushtaq
reason.
Sahab, can we say that these ulamas, obviously in past they have been issuing fatwas against TTP as well, and in obviously in response, fatwas were being issued by TTP against these ulamas as well in past. So this could be one of the reasons that we shouldn't have been expecting massive positive results from this ulama jirga. And obviously if we take out the sentiments of Pakistan right now, of course they might be thinking that they will be expecting a positive result, which they haven't got, and it represents that the obviously the rift between both of the sides is still there.
Actually, in the past, some of the religious scholars was against suicide attacks with the TTP and their pillow fighters carried out in Pakistan. And among them was Sheikh Sanjan Sahib. And he had practically opposed the suicide attacks inside Pakistan. And he received threats from the Taliban. And then he was killed by some people in Peshawar. It's still a mystery that who killed him. But he had openly came against these militant groups operating in Pakistan. If you talk about other clerics, I don't see that they were so much against the TTP, and they're still against. I'm talking about Maulana Tayyib. He is the central Amir of Ishat al-Tawheed wa Sunnah in Panjpir, Sawabi is a big madrasa. So if you see all these militants who operated in Malakand, Bonair, Swat, Dir Upper, Dir Lower, then Bajaur and Mohmand, they actually belong to his school of thought. And that's the reason that when these ulama went to Afghanistan, in the first meeting, they didn't talk about the peace talks. And they just offered, they just prayed for the success of the peace talks. And then Maulana Tayyib requested the acting Prime Minister of Afghanistan, Mullah Muhammad Hassan Khun, to arrange the second meeting with the TTP. And he then requested the acting Interior Minister, Sirajuddin Haqqani. And then they arranged the second meeting, and then they spoke about all these issues. Maulana Tayyib didn't talk about merger. He just asked the Taliban that when you are coming to Pakistan, you should not bring your arms because you are not
Right,
coming
Farrukh.
to fight against the Pakistani state.
Right, Mr. Mushtaq, thank you. Stay with us right now. Farrukh, I'm going to go to you right now. Firstly, I would like you to briefly comment on what Mr. Mushtaq had said, but also I would like you to also briefly comment about the merger of FATA. Of course, the reversal of the merger of FATA that they're demanding, do you think that's a sustainable demand from the TTP in itself?
Well, just let me ask you to first actually take a step back and think what we are doing right now. We are talking about expectations of TTP, right? This is the gang of people ragtag gang of people who kept on killing Pakistanis and have killed 80,000 people so far.
And 141 children for that
Yeah,
matter.
and 141, and I mean
lot
more
more.
than that, yeah,
Yes.
because you're talking about APS, but apart from APS also, my children also were killed in many other places.
Yeah,
so that number also keeps on increasing, and then $150 billion, lost to Pakistani property, and yet we are talking to TTP and their expectation. So to briefly answer your question, I don't think that FATA, a decision that we took after ages, after mulling over it for quite some time, can be reversed or should be reversed.
Absolutely. It's
right?
constitutional.
So, yeah, it is constitutional and they have equal rights, the people in ex-FATA. And now that they have been merged, there is a chance that those areas will also be mainstreamed. And the government of Pakistan has been doing a lot.
And the people are also very happy with the decision as well, because they've seen development.
Of course, because of mainstreaming, right?
Absolutely.
The state of Pakistan has been focusing on that as well. But the second thing, to actually expect that there could be some kind of breakthrough with TTP, I don't think TTP would want any kind of reconciliation.
Right.
Why? Because A, they have an added depth in Afghanistan now that they are ideological twins are ruling there. Secondly, they are there, nobody is pushing them to come over to Pakistan or face the music. And the third thing that is very important at this moment is that they still think that if this formula worked in Afghanistan and they could push half the world's forces from Afghanistan, these guys can take over Pakistan as well. So
Right.
don't you think for a moment that this matter is going to settle?
This
Exactly.
is a very, very important
Even
matter.
if you concede everything, they are going to come up with some other kind of technicality and
Right.
they will keep on fighting.
Right.
So
Right.
this is
Faisal, I'm going to come to you, but we have Mr. Ehsanullah Tuipu Mahsood, who has joined us as well. He's a journalist. Welcome to PTV World, firstly. Okay, now Farrukh was saying that these are the people, TTP are the people who have killed millions, rather thousands of people, 80,000 people, of course, in Pakistan as well, and including, I believe this is very, very important, 141 people, 141 children, innocent children, in the APS attack as well. Should we continue the talks? Firstly, that's the prime question that comes in my mind. Why are we doing these talks? Right, Mr. Tipu, can you hear us? Unfortunately,
No,
we
I
have
think-
lost the connection. Faisal, kindly,
Yeah.
if you could answer the same question.
No, I just wanted to go towards Dr. Tariq, and Dr. Tariq, there is a situation. I just want to give you a situation. Number one, obviously, reversal of FATA merger, and number two, very important one, which I am getting vibes of, is that they want, obviously, Pakistan Army to be vacating all of the FATA, the former FATA area, so that they can come back to their places.
Absolutely.
And that's what they want to do. And do you not think that right now Afghanistan itself and Taliban regime itself is facing a dilemma in which, of course, they are constantly having a threat from ISIS Khorasan and TTP, BLA, all of these banned outfits. They have very good relations with the ISIS Khorasan as well. So in coming future, if of course the demands of TTP are accepted by Pakistan, which I am very much sure that they will never be accepted by Pakistan, if for, let's say, for the sake of argument, if we think that okay, Pakistan is going to do it, then in that case, don't you think that people of ISIS Khorasan and TTP who are active in Kunnar province and Nangarhar province, they will be ending up coming to Pakistan, having the safe havens in Pakistan once again in FATA area, and conducting their terrorism in Afghanistan
Right,
once
Faisal.
more?
They're playing a double game here. In fact, now they are playing a friendly face to Pakistan, saying, please come and negotiate with them, but they are not encouraging the TTP to conclude any type of negotiations. They are using the TTP now as a strategic depth in Pakistan, the Taliban. So this is what I hear from Kabul is, look, let these guys, because this is the only weapon against Pakistan. So, but in the end of the day, these people are extremists. If you give in to what they want, It emboldens extremism in the area, and it endangers all the progress that governments want to work towards for the benefit of all the citizens. You see, these numbers of these TTP are small compared to the population of 220 million Pakistanis that need to be uplifted every day against poverty, etc. And the government, the international institutions are working towards that. And the merger of the Fatah also is to be able to deliver progress and services to these areas, including schools. And these guys, with their extremist views, they want to keep enclaves inside Pakistan, and they have made out of Afghanistan an enclave as well. So we are not heading to the right direction with these guys.
Right, Dr. Tariq Farhadi, kindly stay with us. We're going to be joined, of course, we have been joined rather, but by Mr. Ehsanullah Tipu Mehsood, who's a journalist. Now going back to the same question as well, Mr. Tariq Farhadi has also mentioned that they're trying to gain a strategic depth in Pakistan and the merged FATA regions as well. Do you think it's worth the peace talks that we're having with the TTP right now? Mr. Tipu, can you hear us?
Yes, exactly. So, yes, regarding the peace talks with the TTP, as per my information and understanding, things are, moving in a very right direction. And especially the Ulama Jirga, they have made some breakthrough in this regard. And reports coming from Kabul suggest that there are some sort of flexibility shown by the TTP leadership after having series of meetings with the Ulama Jirga in Kabul and with the mediation of Afghan Taliban and the senior Afghan Taliban leadership. So reports in Pakistani media, they were claiming that there is a situation of a deadlock, or that visit was not fruitful. But on ground, things are moving in a very right direction so far. And that's why, soon after the arrival of Ulama Jirga, a very prominent tribal Jirga left for Kabul. And yesterday they had meetings with the senior leadership of the TTP. So assuming that there is some kind of a deadlock or things might get derailed, I think that won't be right to say.
Right. Sorry to cut you.
Yes, please.
Let me ask one follow-up question. So you just mentioned that TTP has shown some flexibility. Could you actually tell us what exactly does that amount to? What exactly is it? What kind of flexibility?
Those things, because the entire peace process is very, it's a discrete process. So saying or exposing those things can further complicate the issue. But my sources, and they are very credible, so they have told us that there is some kind of flexibility from the TTP side as well. And in coming days, I'm very hopeful that things, especially there are two demands, two key points where, which can cause a deadlock or might derail the entire peace process. So one was the demand from the TTP side, and they were seeking reversal of FATA merger, and one demand from Pakistani side. Pakistani government was asking TTP to surrender or to dissolve the organization. So as per ground information, there is some kind of flexibility regarding one of these conditions. So I think this is.
I was also going to go to Mr. Mushtaq. He's saying that there's some sort of flexibility according to his sources. Can we trust this flexibility of the TTP?
And if I could add another question to it, Mushtaq Saab, that is that reports are so many TTP, obviously the lower cadres, they want to come back, and many of them, they have came back and they have started their new life back in their FATA area homes. Can we expect that the top leadership is just negotiating to get best out of it? If not in terms of obviously the demands, then at least we can say that they are after some monetary gains.
Yes, I will give you answer to your first question. Yes, most of the TTP fighters are back in the tribal districts. They are fighting in South Waziristan, they are fighting in North Waziristan, Bajawal, Moman. And even in such a settled district like Peshawar, Dar Ismail Khan, Tan, yes, they are back. Now, if you want me to tell you about the flexibility, I don't see anything because we have been sending these jargas to the Taliban and they are negotiating for the past couple of months. But yes, they compromised on some of their demands, but they are still stuck to their two major demands. They wanted to come back with the arms, and then they are against the Pata merger. But it is very strange that some of these tribal elders negotiating with the TTP leadership, they are themselves against the Pata merger because they have lost their privileges. So they wanted the government to restore the previous status, but they can't help themselves. So that's why they wanted the Taliban, the TTP, to make this demand, and they wanted to get back those first some privileges because there were no accountability and they were actually the rulers. Now, the tribal Jarga held two meetings with the TTP leadership. They met yesterday and they met today before coming to Pakistan. And most of their negotiation related to the Pata merger. And the tribal elders tried to make understand to TTP leadership that it is not so easy to restore the previous status of the tribal areas because uh, it is the parliament they will decide the fate of the erstwhile tribal areas. So they are just negotiating them because one success is that the TTP has extended the ceasefire for an independent time, and they wanted to continue the ceasefire till the peace process is continued. That's one
Right.
success. But in the near future, it will require more sessions. Otherwise, it's not too much easy to sit with them and strike a deal.
Right, right. Okay, now let's go to Dr. Tariq Farhadi. Of course, Pakistan has warned Afghanistan as well regarding giving safe space to the TTP as well. And here's a country, Pakistan that is, that has been supporting Afghanistan's cause of humanitarian issue over there. They've been trying to highlight that there's a humanitarian crisis over there and urging the international community to try and focus on what is important as well. And despite the Ukrainian crisis over there, we're still raising our voice for the people of Afghanistan over there who are unfortunately going through that humanitarian crisis as well. And then, of course, the Afghan Taliban is also giving safe haven to the TTP. So, do you feel that the problem over here is on part of the Afghan Taliban, and is their commitment to Pakistan's request sustainable or temporary?
So the Taliban are playing their own game of leverage, as I mentioned. They are opening their arms, saying you can come anytime in our guest houses and have meetings, jirgas. In fact, the TTP, I read somewhere that one of the TTP has said we don't even believe in jirgas. We want to negotiate with the army directly in Pakistan because these jirgas don't really result in anything. And for Pakistan, in my mind, it has to identify who can split from them and come back without Kalashnikovs, and who are the elements who will never accept the conditions of the state of Pakistan, basically, and know who we can negotiate with, who we cannot negotiate with, basically. Because when you negotiate with these people, the next day they want to be in Islamabad as well on the seat of the government, and they don't believe in elections. This is what we have lived through in Afghanistan. They took the seat of the government without elections. So at the end of the day, once they come back with their Kalashnikovs, next thing is we want to be in Islamabad, and elections are not Islamic. So it's a dangerous path to negotiate with them.
Right, okay, Dr. Tariq Farhadi, also, we've seen that before these peace talks were commencing, back in April right now, there was a cross-border fire between the TTP and Pakistan's army as well. And in certain videos, we saw that many sophisticated weapons were used by the TTP. Where are they getting these sophisticated weapons from?
Afghanistan, after 20 years of foreign presence, is a storehouse of all kinds of weapons. And the Americans tried to destroy the big weapons, the airplanes, the sophisticated stuff that didn't want to fall into the wrong hands. But there's still a lot of weapons in Afghanistan.
Right. Farrukh, do you think that there's a link between Daesh, ISIS-K, that is, and of course the TTP, especially in terms of the weapons, upon the weapons as well as the financial collision between them?
Right. The simple answer is no. There are two reasons. Because TTP actually believes that the caliph that they actually owe allegiance to is actually from Taliban, right? And the ISK, no matter whether it is Khorasan or IS International, it has its own system of caliphate and own claimants to that. So naturally, there might be some kind of ideological parallels, but they are not essentially the same thing. There is one caveat though. TTP is mostly people who have been hounded by Pakistani side. So many people drop out of that and they join ISK. So this might be a laundering system from within Taliban to the ISK, but I don't think that there is any collusions per se.
It
At
feels
this
like
moment,
terrorism is giving them jobs and
absolutely. What else? Look, a country that actually has produced nothing, unfortunately, but war economy for past 40 years.
Absolutely.
Whatever, whosoever was doing anything constructive, they were destroyed gradually. After that, you can expect that that place is going to be a hotbed of extremism, right, and violence. So at this moment, that is happening. But my concern is that today we are talking about somebody else's country.
Right.
And that is not, that is hard trending even then. Tomorrow this could happen here. Why do I want to take risks? If I'm fighting a war, I'm fighting a war because my state decided to do so. So after 20 years, if we are told that we are going to change the direction, and these people who killed thousands of Pakistanis are our brothers, estranged brothers, it becomes really difficult for me to swallow. But remember
I'm glad
that
you're very, very clear in your
I'm
stance.
very clear. Yeah, I'm very clear. But with due respect, when you talk about these groups, I tell you, till the time there is no political settlement in Afghanistan, till the time Pakistan doesn't harden its border properly, and then there is an Afghanistan-Pakistan a working relationship where we regulate the borders and then take care of the divided families across the divide. Till the time that doesn't happen, there will be sanctuaries where terrorists will keep on breeding and this problem is not going to go away. But that doesn't mean a settlement with terrorists. A settlement between two countries, settlement within Afghanistan, the political settlement, then we can talk about anything.
Right. Okay, now Mr. Hassanullah Tipu Masood, of course, Farrukh has just pointed out that until there's a hard border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, instead of a porous one, this will not be unfortunately solved. Right now we've seen that Pakistan has finished 90% of its border. Why is still there is an insurgence, and why, as Mr. Mushtaq Yusufzai earlier said as well, why are they coming into the merged area of FATA?
No, actually they were hailing from the merged area of FATA, so they want to come back and to get settled in that part of Pakistan. And also, you know, the people living in FATA, they do have a tribal, ethnic, religious, ideological affiliation, trade affiliation with Afghanistan. So I think, you know, getting hold of FATA has always been a top priority of the TTP. And also, you know, we are discussing the TTP, but another very serious threat is emerging from Pakistan border region, and that is ISKP. Afghan Taliban military operations against various sleeper cells of ISKP in Nangarhar, in Kunard. So those ISKP guys, according to the security agencies reports, they have entered into Pakistan, and especially those area adjacent to those two Afghan provinces like Bajawad, Mohammed, Khyber Agency, and then further into Peshawar Valley. They do have sleeper cells over there, And in the recent past, we have seen a very rapid increase of ISKP activities and attacks in that part of Pakistan. They have targeted tribal elders, religious leaders, political leaders, law enforcement agencies, officials. So I think if in case things get settled with TTP, we do have another problem, and that is ISKP. So
Right.
it doesn't mean that resolving the TTP issue will bring some sort of peace or stability in Pakistan border region. We our law enforcement agencies must also concentrate on the ISKP threat as well. And also in Waziristan, like in North Waziristan, there is another group which is Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, and Hafiz Gul Bahadur group has been very active in past like 3-4 months. They have carrying out attacks almost daily, killing local civilians, security forces officials. So that problem is also very much there. So engaging TTP and forgetting about the other militant organization in the region which has transnational roots. So that would also create a serious problem in future as well. But I would also like to add one thing, that there must be some strict control on the border, but we should also keep one thing in mind, that strict control must have some flexibility as well, because people in tribal area, they do have businesses in Afghanistan, and that's been happening like for past many centuries. So there must be some kind of space for those people as well. And we have been hearing a lot of criticism, you can say, that the border control has become so strict, and there are multiple state organs, like different state institutions, and they are carrying out screening, and there are also some reports of bribes, taking bribes from the local people. So I think this issue should also be
since
sorted
you were
out.
talking about, I hope you can hear me, you were talking once again about flexibility, and particularly you talked about areas in ex-FATA. Now the question at this moment is that we have to look at what happened during the war on terror. TTP came and decapitated most of the tribal elder system, and they installed themselves, and they kept on wreaking havoc there. The government of Pakistan, state of Pakistan actually pushed back and drove them to the outskirts. Now the question at this moment is, the new people who are there, they must be vulnerable at this moment, and that's why those tribal elders keep on saying that there should be some kind of negotiated settlement. But is it not important to bolster them rather than showing flexibility to the TTP? Masood Sahab.
Yes, exactly. You know, the locals or the tribal elders, they are very much supporting this entire peace process. Like from every tribal district, you will find a lot of people from every segment of society that they are very much in favor of this process.
Because they fear relapse.
Sorry?
Because they might be fearing that there could be potentially a relapse, so they don't want to burn all the bridges. If the state of Pakistan proves that its bridge is strong, then they will only rely with government of Pakistan.
Yes, so this is also one of the reasons, but also, they have seen like a series of military operations and, the Talibanization in the region, then, massive migration from there. So they have suffered a lot, and now they really expect from Pakistani government and even from the TTP, and that's why the Pakistani government, activated the tribal elders to go and talk to the TTP and make them convince that your militancy has created a lot of problem for us as well, not only just for Pakistani state but for the local people as well. So better we should resolve these things peacefully and through a negotiated settlement. The way.
Ehsan sir, for further, I'll go towards Dr. Tariq Farhadi. Dr. Tariq, if we talk about obviously Doha Accord, that required Taliban to obviously not let their land to be used against any of the neighbors, for terrorism purposes. Do you not think that this phase is actually a real test for Taliban themselves, that they have to prove that they, whatever they committed to, they will be going to do it?
And by the way, sir, I'm glad that you are going to answer this question. If we know that TTP leadership that we are negotiating with is in Afghanistan, and then while the negotiations either are going or stalled, there are similar kind of attacks in Pakistan. Should we not construe it as using Afghanistan soil against Pakistan? True.
It is, unfortunately. I think one of the things that Pakistan can ask formally from the Taliban is to disarm the TTP inside Afghanistan. They can do it. They are on friendly terms. And if the Taliban want to gain international recognition, one step would be to disarm the groups that they are cozy with. You know, these people are in guest houses, state-paid guest houses, and then their soldiers are armed. And now they want to come back to Pakistan with their guns. First of all, guns shouldn't go through borders. In this region, we have to clean our situation up. And Pakistan has the leverage to ask from Taliban to disarm the TTP. That's all. Inside Afghanistan.
Right, okay, now I'm going to go to you, Faisal, and let's take a different dynamic as well to this conversation. We know that India
Faisal
has
is
been
a different dynamic. Faisal is a different dynamic.
Very different.
India has been perpetrating continuous terrorism against Pakistani soil as well, through Balochistan and of course through Afghanistan, where they've been using it as a porous border as well. Let's take a look at the equation that India could come and take advantage of the situation as well. What do you think about this dynamic, this fact that India could use this particular stall of the peace talks maybe, or the lack of the peace talks, or maybe the fact that there are peace talks against Pakistani soil?
Taiba, if we talk about Indian involvement, they never stopped. They had sources on ground within Afghanistan, and Afghanistan right now is a country where obviously you can't expect that everything would be okay overnight. Obviously people might be expecting that if Taliban are there, the sources which were used in past by India or by any of the spook agency in past, of course they will be continuously using them. That is why we are seeing that ISIS Khorasan, IMU, ETIM, TTP, BLA, BLF, all of them, they are there, they are being catered, and they know how to get fundings. And even if we talk about back in May, there was a statement by MI5 chief, and he himself said it, that from $280 per person to $420 per person, ISIS Khorasan is offering people to join them in Afghanistan. Obviously, from some sources, they are getting money into Afghanistan, and they are using it. So we know that land is still being used by Indian RAW. Indian army is still active out there, and they are obviously funding TTP and the terrorist activities of TTP. Obviously, Gul Bahadur earlier, Sanullah Saab was mentioning, he's pretty much right about it, because he's the guy who is constantly getting fundings, and that is why they know that it is sort of a source of or an opportunity of getting fundings. They will never want the peace to be given a chance. I think
I'm fascinated by what you said, Faisal, and I have a follow-up question for you. If you want to conclude, please do.
Yeah.
Then I have a follow-up
I
question.
want to conclude. This is the time for Taliban regime to understand that this is not right for the region. This is not right for neighborhood. Obviously, the neighboring relation or the brotherly relation which Pakistan and Afghanistan can have, it can destroy it, and it must stop here now.
Right. Let me ask you one thing. I mean, this is called intelligence business is called the wilderness of mirrors, right?
Yeah.
There are levels, and there are layers upon layers. Now, you just told us that India might be sponsoring IMU, ETIM, TTP, ISK.
Not
so,
IMU, ETIM.
You just mentioned IMU as well, Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan. But all these. So why would I not think that they might also be sponsoring some within the TTA?
Maybe.
Because
Yes, you're
there are
right.
people, at least, I mean, they seem to see, they refuse to see any kind of nuances among these organizations, and they call them all their brothers with the exception of ISKP.
Right.
So why is it that there can't be some kind of scheme to actually bring Pakistan
That's a
down
very
through
interesting
TTA?
perception.
Yeah, and Farrukh, I mentioned many other BLA, BLF, and along with that, I mentioned spooky agencies. Them spooky agencies could be from anywhere, including India.
Right. Okay. I'm going to go towards Mr. Mushtaq Yusufzai now. Of course, hypothetically, if these talks fail, of course we have different perceptions. Some do not want the talks to happen at all. But right now, since they are happening right now, if these talks fail, what is the next step for Pakistan? Mr. Mushtaq.
I think Pakistan used all options, and Pakistan used its military everywhere in the tribal districts. And the TTP could not be defeated militarily. One thing that we know is the Taliban are quite safe. They're very happy. Inside Afghanistan, they don't have any concern about drone strikes, missile strikes. They're fine. But Pakistan is trying through the Taliban, Afghan Taliban, to resolve this issue, because I have told you that there were quite frequent attacks in South Waziristan and North Waziristan, and we lost so many soldiers. And that's why Pakistan then approached the Afghan Taliban to stop these people from using their soil. And then the Afghan Taliban, according to my sources, the Afghan Taliban told me that they convinced and then informed the Pakistani authorities that the Taliban, the Pakistani Taliban, got united. They have streamlined themselves, and they are planning for a very huge attack inside Pakistan. So better to engage them. So then Afghan Taliban offered these services, and then they started the negotiation. The negotiation process started in February 2000. I think it was 2 years ago. And I remember some of the people who came from Bajawar and went to Afghanistan. Those there, the Taliban were not in power. So the peace process started quite earlier. But as you said, that if the peace process failed, what happened? It is very difficult, because then the Pakistani authorities have to engage the Afghan Taliban, and Pakistani security forces sometimes cross the border to target these people in Kunur and Nangarhar.
Right. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this segment. Thank you so much for joining, gentlemen. Mr. Tariq Farhadi, the Afghan affairs expert, Mushtaq Yusufzai, senior journalist, as well as Hassanullah Tipu Masood. Thank you for joining in the discussion. We really hope that there's more gender-balanced panel the next time as well. But okay, let's go on to the second segment, of course, which is the havoc that's being created by climate change in Balochistan. Not just, of course, Balochistan and the rest of the provinces as well, but right now in Balochistan, currently alone, 136 people have passed away, 70 plus people are injured, so many houses are destroyed, people are unfortunately displaced in their own provinces from their own houses as well. And of course there are relief activities, of course there are rescue operations as well, but is that enough? Farrukh, I'm going to go towards you. The measures have been taken, and they have been the financial assistance have been given to them as well, and the Pakistan Army, the military as well, is taking place, ensuring rather that the relief and rescue operation is going to continue. And the Prime Minister himself also ensured and said that there has to be an immediate disbursement of the financial assets as well. Do you think that's enough for the people of Balochistan?
Well, Tayyaba, if you have been following social media, on social media, we have been watching clips for days, right, which are really heartbreaking. The kind of, one person is totally, covered in mud. He's sitting on a corner of land, and he's crying that his entire family was swept away by floods, right? We don't know the numbers right now. The numbers what are stated are because people are registered, and whatever is counted by the local authorities, we know those numbers. But there could be some, the toll could be bigger. It is not merely Balochistan, it is also southern Punjab, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well, wherever there were torrential rains or, torrents, this could happen. The Prime Minister of Pakistan has gone there, the videos of his interaction with the people or the affected is heartwarming. But frankly, at this moment, it reminds me of what we encountered in 2010 In 2010, what happened was we are accustomed to the urban poverty in this country. But the rural poverty is usually hidden from us because,
Yes.
The cameras don't go there, nobody has time, there are no people meters, there is no rating system, so nobody covers those areas extensively. But all of a sudden, because there are floods, people get displaced and they're out, and then you realize how little they have. And this time, once again, because Balochistan coverage and footage is coming of flooding as well, you realize that even the olden infrastructure is so decayed that it is really terrifying, right? At this moment, I want to say that government of Pakistan and state of Pakistan are doing enough. But I really want to remind you that it is the responsibility of the state to take care of its weakest.
Farrukh,
The national
a follow-up
security,
question.
hang on, national security policy actually mentions
Human
how
security.
does it actually weigh the human security. They say a state is as strong or as weak as its weakest member. And now we know how weak the members are.
That
So the
is,
state of Pakistan has to take cognizance of that, and I wish that our media could cover this more and focus on these realities more rather than actually building up suspense for
Right.
whatever is going to happen tomorrow or theatrics.
A grim situation, but Farrukh, a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
We know that climate change is taking place. Pakistan is one of the fifth most climate-affected countries,
Yeah.
and that is a fact. We know this. Why aren't there enough early warning systems? Why, as you've mentioned rightly, that the infrastructure is not, unfortunately, taking care of itself as well? It's so weak. And as you rightly mentioned, that we are known, the state is known by the weakest segment of the society. Why are we not doing enough?
Right. First of all, since we are talking about Balochistan and these areas which are outskirts, thought to be outskirts, southern Punjab, others, poverty is a lot. But then remember, Balochistan is nearly 50% of Pakistan
Yes,
land mass, right? It is 44%, but if you include coastal line, then the number increases, right? And it crosses 50%. With that kind of land mass, you'll have to work a lot to improve things, right? I think throughout Pakistan's history, everything was happening higgledy-piggledy. And that's why there are places in Balochistan, in southern Punjab, and also Fatah, where clean drinking water is not available.
Right.
And people have to walk kilometers to get water. I have traveled extensively in all parts, and you will be astonished. The second thing that is important is that now we are realizing that we are number 8. And if you start counting, 7 out of 8 countries are almost very small countries. So we are the most vulnerable country in the world.
Right.
The problem is that while we have to invest in the kind of infrastructure that you were talking about, what we haven't done, and because we haven't been that much a polluter, we have never crossed the carbon emission threshold.
Right.
But we are a victim because all our neighbors keep on polluting.
Well, we're
right?
short on time. I'm going to go
Yeah.
to Faisal now.
Just a
Faisal,
point.
of course, we know, as Farrukh has rightly pointed out, that around 50% of the territory of Pakistan is Balochistan as well. Do you think we need to come out of the populist election policies and manifesto as well? And we also focus on the areas that are, unfortunately, as he's rightly pointed out, not in front of the media eye or the main eye of the country.
He's very right about it. End of the day, every individual that is living in Pakistan, it's state's responsibility to reach out to him whenever he needs or her need.
Yes.
Right now, I just wanted to obviously highlight the way the Southern Command has been obviously, day and night, they have been making sure that they are reaching out to people. NDMA was doing its work, and obviously Prime Minister, he was there as well, and he has done, he has been to so many places in Balochistan,
Yes.
and he is making sure it as well. Here I want to hail the efforts of, Southern Command Commandant Lieutenant General Sarfraz. he's been upfront and he's been going to almost
Right.
all of the places,
Right.
and he's been marvelous out there.
Right, thank you.
One more sentence.
Unfortunately,
Hang on.
we're-
One sentence.
Okay.
Today, the video was released of Prime Minister on ground and
Yes.
interacting with kids.
With a child, yes.
That was very heartwarming. I hope
Yeah.
that the other politicians
people-to-people
can,
connection.
other politicians can also emulate that
Yes,
example.
people-to-people connection is what a human being is basically about, and that is what shows the leadership qualities of a prime minister or any leader for that matter as well. And of course, climate change is real, ladies and gentlemen. Let's work towards climate change, the activities and the innovations that could combat climate change as well. It's no longer, unfortunately, a myth. It's never been a myth. It is a fact, and we have to work towards it. The entire Celsius, the temperature has also increased as well to 1.5 degrees Celsius and over. And Pakistan is the largely affected country. Let's help out the people. Let's donate as well as much as we can. And take care of yourselves. This was Tayyiba Nisar Khan along with Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal signing off. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.